What's going on, Instagram? Instagram. It is our July series. So I'm waiting for a couple of you to get on here. And I'm not going to be long. Remember, these are supposed to be short. But today we're going to have a really serious conversation. This is a conversation for grown-ups. So if you are emotionally immature or you are unable to process ideas that might differ from yours, or people who have experiences that are different from yours, this conversation is probably not for you. This is probably going to be what is called the triggering conversation, but we have to talk about it. Because I think a lot of what is happening is that people are just not informed. They're not informed. So yesterday I left off my summer series on the Bill Cosby. Someone had asked, what did I think about what Judge Joe Brown had said? And I talked about it briefly, but I really want to bring this full circle. So just to talk a little bit about what Judge Joe Brown talked about, and it may not have been in the most eloquent way in which he described some of the acts, but basically what he was saying is that women have to be accountable also. That's all he was saying. It's from what I took. It's that women have to be accountable for the places they go, for the places they put themselves in, for the company that they keep. Any person who has a young daughter, sister, niece, you have said, these are the rules, right? Have you not counseled? I've done it. Have you not? And it was done for me, thankfully. Have you not said to young women, if y'all going out today, y'all going out tonight, make sure y'all stay together, right? Ain't that the rule? Wasn't that the rule when you were in it was the rule for me. Okay, I'm 49, I'm going to be 50, right? So the rule is a little different now when I go out with my girls. If one of them want to slide out, you're a grown-ass woman. Call me in the morning, right? Text me, let me know you okay. But when we were in our 20s, we had a code, right? Nobody leaves. You don't leave with nobody else. We came together, we leave together. Watch your drinks, right? Don't put your drinks down. Don't leave your drink unattended. These are things that we teach young women because we want them to be accountable, because we want them to be responsible. So for anyone to suggest that because there are men who are sexual predators, and there are, that for some reason, because these vile people exist, that gets us off the hook, it doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. And so you do need to be accountable. If someone, a man or a woman, offers you a substance and you don't know what it is, you have the right not to ingest that. You have the right not to take it. You have the right to pretend you took it, depending on the situation and the circumstance you're in. If you're on a business trip with a powerful man, I've been there. Any woman who is who has a powerful job, you're going to deal with powerful men, right? Powerful men think that they can have anything they want. Right? It's like that app. You point, you click, mine. But if you find yourself in a situation where you're with a powerful man, and let's say y'all got separate rooms on this business trip, like in the Cosby case, one of the women was escorted back to her room by another person who was in the entourage, right? And it's late at night, and somewhere around midnight, the powerful man calls you up and is like, hey, why don't you come back? You have an option at that point, because what does he want you to come back for? Let's stop pretending, right? Because we don't live in the world as it should be. We live in the world as it is. And the reality is that there are some people that wake up in the morning and try to figure out how are they going to manipulate and use. So there are people who are predators. And because of that, we as women have to be accountable. We don't get a pass on that. I'm sorry. So I agree with Judge Brown on that. Here's my issue, and I already talked too damn long about that. There is a difference between sexual regret and rape. It sucks that we have to adjust our behavior because no one is teaching men to adjust theirs. Sis, I disagree. I think that there are hordes of people teaching men. Men are teaching men. But that doesn't mean that 100% of the men are going to get the lesson. And so, in everything we do, there is a fraction of people who are doing their own thing, right? And so, men, they have their own accountability, but we have ours too. We don't just get to with a and I'm not suggesting, right? So let me be very clear. I'm not suggesting that a woman who might have been coming home from work and had on a miniskirt, who was snatched in the bushes by a stranger and forcibly raped, is her fault. Like she should have worn pants. I'm not suggesting that. That's ridiculous. I'm not making that argument. Okay, but Trace, right? Trace saying a late night phone call is a booty call regardless of who made the call. People, stop pretending you don't know what these men are after. Women, you can't pretend, and don't pretend that you know how many women you lead a man on. You're not really interested, but you know he could do some shit for you. How many women are guilty of that? Here's another statistic, a little different, but around the same lines. Out of all of the paternity tests that are taken, you know, a quarter of them shits come back wrong. Come back not wrong, come back right, or come back not the guy who was taking the test and not his kid. A quarter of them, that's almost 300,000 paternity tests a year. So that's 300,000 women that deceived some man or lied to some man or manipulated their way into two dicks around the same time when they was ovulating. So be accountable. Yeah, we got to be accountable. We don't get a pass. I'm sorry. We just don't get a pass. Okay? Now, let me go back to sexual regret. I want you to understand how expansive sexual assault is. So I'm speaking in New York, and I'm sure that there are statutes in other states that mirror these statutes. But understand that sexual assault ranges all the way from intercourse, unwanted forcible intercourse, to unwanted touching, right? Where there is no intercourse, might not even be under clothes. It could be on the clothes. If you come, you touch my breast, well, that's not rape, but it is a sexual assault, right? Because it's an unwanted touching of a sexual nature. So I want you to understand that there are various levels to this. There's sexual intercourse. Right? That is any type of penetration, however slight. You just put the tip in, that's still rape. Okay? That's sexual intercourse. That's what rape involves. Right? Whether it's forcible or some other reason this person is incapable of consent. Right? Whether that consent is incapable because of age or because of intoxication or mental defect or something like that. There's something that is rendering this person unable. It could be they ingested a substance, right? And that's sort of what was happening with the allegations with Cosby, except there was no intercourse. Again, that was a digital penetration situation, right? We're talking about fingers. So you got sexual intercourse, you got sexual contact. Sexual contact is any touching of a sexual or other intimate part of a person. That you do that for the purpose of gratifying yourself, right? We see this with people on the trains, right? And you see the guy next to you on the train and his hand is doing a little too much of this shit next to your leg. I'm sorry. I'm from New York. Right? That's just nasty. Physically helpless is another term. It means you are unconscious or for any other reason physically unable to communicate an unwillingness to act. Forcible compulsion means to compel by either physical force or by threat, express or implicit, that causes someone to cave, right? So they're going to do it because they're afraid. Foreign object, sexual conduct. Let me go to that. Sexual conduct means sexual intercourse, and that includes all kinds of sexual intercourse, whether it's oral, vaginal, or angel, or anal. That's crazy. Well, yesterday I spoke about some gray areas, and I think that's where I want to read some of this. When it comes to the consent part, because this is where the gray area comes in. Hey, Super Doggone, peace from Toronto. Corey from Toronto. Hi, Corey from Toronto. Long time. All right. Lack of consent may result from, and I want everyone to understand this. This is not just for men. Women, you need to understand this too. Because if you don't understand what you're communicating, then you might not understand what they are understanding or misunderstanding. Right? Because a lot of this sexual dance that we do, we're not saying, hey, would you like to have sexual intercourse with me today? Oh, yes, I will be there promptly at 7 p.m. Right? We're not doing that. It's not that explicit. Right? It's more like, yo, what you doing tonight? You want to pull up? You coming through? What you doing? That. And it's an understanding. Right? Well, we're operating on these understandings, but everybody got a different understanding. That's where the confusion comes in. That's where the problems are. So under the law, lack of consent may result from forcible compulsion. I mean, you forced me. I didn't have a choice, right? Incapacity to consent, and I mentioned some of those. Any additional circumstance in which the victim of sexual abuse or force does not expressly or impliedly acquiesce to the actor's conduct. That's the gray area. Because the law allows for you to impliedly acquiesce. So how does a man or a woman in this day and age, how does a man or a woman gauge your implied acquiescence? How do they gauge that? I touch you, you touch me back. I call you at midnight, you show up. Right? How do you gauge that? Men are going to throw the test out there. Right? In my experience, and maybe it's different for you, but men are going to throw the test out there. Right? Let me see if I can get her to do this. I had a guy once, he was like, maybe 2 weeks or so after we met. He's like, yo, I'm in your neighborhood. Why don't you come? He's like, pull up and give me a hug. I was like, where do they do that at? I was like, I'm sorry, friend. I'm a grown-ass woman. I don't pull up. And I don't just do hugs. And if you want to see me, make some time. Let me know what your schedule's looking like. I'll check my schedule. We'll see if we can coordinate. We'll meet somewhere equidistant, shit like that. But for the women who are not setting those standards, or not setting any boundaries, you pulling up. What are you telling that man? What are you telling him? What are you telegraphing? This is all about being accountable. All of it. What are the boundaries? What are the standards? Do you have any? Are you afraid to set standards now? Because somebody might say, you think you better. Guess what? I got standards. You can't just show up any kind of way up in here. You just cannot. All right? So back to the, so that's the law as it pertains to sexual offenses in general, and talking about what consent and things look like. Let's talk really briefly before I get off of here about sexual regret. Because now we know what sexual assault, touching, conduct, and rape looks like. We understand that consent can be expressed and implied, right? But what about sexual regret? Because I believe that a lot of the women that came forward in the Cosby case were suffering from sexual regret. That's my opinion, and I get to have it. You can disagree, that's fine. But what sexual regret is when a woman is not convicted. It's not necessarily what she wants to do, but she does it anyway. Nobody forced her. It's the next day when she wakes up, whether she wakes up with him or she wakes up at home and she's like, I shouldn't have gave him none. I don't know, any ladies in there, and anybody on here ever had that experience? I shouldn't, he wasn't even worth it. Oh, God. Then you start replaying the event in your mind, right? Don't you have some trifling ass friends? Because this is how it happens. You get you some trifling ass friends. You gave him some? Why would you do that? Right now you're embarrassed. And you're like, we was drinking. It was late. I was like, whatever. It wasn't even that serious. It wasn't even good. I ain't even counting it. Don't we do that? Right? Right. Thank you. Sis, we've all had our moments of wanting our sex back. Right. We all have. Most women will say that with honesty. Right? But then there's a difference between us who understand that you took an L. You're just gonna take an L. I'll never admit it. I'll never admit it, right? And the other women who have the friends that are now saying, wait. So you was drinking? You was drinking? How much did you drink? Did you tell him you wanted to have sex? Did you? And now you're like, well, I didn't expressly say yes, right? But when I think about implied acquiescence, Next, your friend is like, yo, you spoke to him since then? I text him, he ain't text me back. Now you salty, bitch. And now you feeling some kind of way. And that will progress into a rape accusation. That will progress into a rape accusation. And the problem with that is, how do you as a man get around that? How do you get around that? You invite a woman over, I'm going to need you to sign. I need you to sign this consent form before you take them drawers off. I don't know how y'all want to do it, but I assure you that there going forward probably should be some sort of measure, if you want to protect yourself, to make sure that you don't later come back and have to deal with some chick who has some sexual regret. And sexual regret don't have to be the same night. Don't have to be the same night. It could be, a week later when you haven't been responding to my text messages, or you've ghosted me. Oh, yeah. Which skit? I can't remember, Trace. People are doing consent videos now. It's crazy, but I get it. Wow. I haven't seen the consent videos. I'd be curious to see that. I think the problem is, again, it's not the way we envision consent. It's not like yes, no. It's seldom. I mean, think about it. When was the last time you expressly consented to sex? When was the last time you were like, today, I would like to engage in the intercourse with thee? Nobody does that. Nobody. It's not romantic, right? That's not romantic. It's just not. So I say all of that to say that it's important for women, it's important for us to be responsible for our own bodies, responsible for our own actions, responsible for the messages that we send to men, understanding that they might interpret some of our, let's just say friendliness, right? They might interpret some of that in a different way than we intend, right? Be cognizant about that. Be aware of that. And if a man calls you at midnight, after you just left his room, and he calls you back, understand that if you go to that room, the message you are giving him is that you might be impliedly acquiescing to sex. Okay? And that's it. That's our July series.